I don't know where I'm going, only God knows where I've been.
12 names, some of the biggest rock legends who ever lived. And right now, not 40 years ago, not during some tour you just missed. Right now, every single one of them is fighting something that no amount of stadium shows or platinum records could prepare them for. Some are still out there every night, giving everything they have. Some have had to let the stage go entirely.
You better come inside, let me teach you how to jive and well.
Some are watching the very thing that made them who they are. Their voice, their hands, their ability to sit behind a drum kit and move a room, watching that slip away in real time. All of them deserve to have their story told. These are 12 rock legends who are currently sick. Number 12, Jon Bon Jovi. Jon Bon Jovi built 40 years of rock and roll on one thing, that voice. Not just the range. The ability to carry 60,000 people through Livin' on a Prayer without anyone in the nosebleeds feeling like they were far away. That's not a technical skill. That's something rarer. So when his voice started to fail in 2022, it wasn't just a health issue. It was a crisis of identity. Here's what was actually happening. One of his vocal cords was atrophying. The strong cord was pushing the weaker one aside, one as thick as a thumb, the other as thin as a pinky, and the weak one was dying. My craft was being taken from me, he said. The doctors gave him a choice, surgery or retirement. For a man who'd said publicly he didn't want to be the fat Elvis, that choice must have felt like a door closing. He had the surgery, a procedure where a small implant is placed against the weakened cord to help it close properly. Then 3 years of rehabilitation, daily vocal exercises, setbacks he didn't expect, moments when he genuinely believed it was over. There'd be a little ray of hope, he said. The next day was brighter, and then you get punched in the nose by some setback, and you pick yourself up and do it again. The Forever Tour launched in July 2026 at Madison Square Garden, and every note he sang that night was proof that sometimes the thing you fight the hardest to get back is also the thing you're most grateful to have. But here's what stays with me. He was prepared to be done. He had accepted retirement as a possibility. And a lot of rock legends on this list weren't as lucky as Jon Bon Jovi turned out to be. Number 11, David Coverdale. You know the voice, Here I Go Again, Is This Love? The kind of voice that could fill an arena before the guitars even kicked in. David Coverdale spent over 50 years at the top of hard rock. First as the face of Deep Purple's commercial peak, then as the founder of Whitesnake. That's not one legacy, that's two. In November 2025, at 74 years old, he said goodbye. The formal announcement was quiet, but the years leading up to it told a longer story. The 2022 farewell tour that Whitesnake never finished, Coverdale sidelined by what he later described as the worst sinus infection of his life. As a singer who knows respiratory illness intimately, he put it plainly, I know them like f***ing relatives of mine. But this one didn't clear. Combined with degenerative arthritis that had required both knees to be replaced with titanium years earlier, the toll was undeniable. The band pulled out of their co-headlining North American tour with Scorpions. They never went back. The retirement video was short and gracious. He raised a glass, he said, "Fare thee well," A montage of 50-plus years of shows rolled behind him like something from an ending you weren't quite ready for. "It is time for me to enjoy my retirement," he said. That's a sentence that sounds simple. Coming from a man who spent 5 decades on those stages, it is anything but.
You by my side, tell me it's alright, 'cause I don't.
If you were in the crowd for Whitesnake in the 80s or 90s, if you know what it felt like when that voice hit the chorus of "Here I Go Again" at full volume in a packed hall, you know what stepped away from the stage when David Coverdale did. He gave you 50 years. Some of y'all know exactly which tour meant the most. Drop it in the comments.
I should have known better than to let you go alone.
Real talk. Only 9% of you are subscribed. That hurts. We're spending hours digging through archives, fact-checking every detail, bringing these stories back to life. And if you're watching this far, you clearly care. So hit subscribe. It's free and takes 2 seconds. Now, to my subscribers, barely any of you have joined the membership. And honestly, that stings even more. You know the work we put in. You keep coming back. If these videos have ever made you feel something, if this music means something to you, join the membership. It's one coffee a month and it's the only way we keep this going. Let's build this together. All right, back to it. Number 10, Vince Neil.
One more night, and I'm coming on this floor.
Christmas night, 2024. Vince Neil went to sleep and woke up in an emergency. His entire left side had stopped responding. A stroke in his sleep. And when the doctors ran the scans, they found something they didn't expect.
Just set me free. Oh, sweet.
This wasn't the first time. There were 4 scars in his brain. 4 separate strokes. 2 of them he had never known about. "My whole left side went out," he said later. "I had to learn to walk again, and that was tough." The doctors told him he probably wouldn't return to the stage. What came after was months of physical therapy at his home in Nashville. Wheelchair to walker, walker to cane, cane to nothing, his voice untouched. Stroke doesn't always work the way you expect, but his mobility was gone, and he had to rebuild it from scratch at 64 years old. Just to walk, just to stand.
You know that I've seen.
Here's the part that hits differently when you understand what Motley Crue actually represented. These weren't just rock stars. They were the embodiment of excess surviving itself, a band that somehow outlasted everything that should have finished them. Nikki Sixx was clinically dead for 2 minutes in 1987 and wrote a song about it. And Vince Neil spent the days after Christmas 2024 fighting to get his left side back.
My heart's like an open book for the whole world.
By September 2025, he was back on a Vegas stage. By 2026, Motley Crue was on a full tour. "I am going to push through the best I can," he told a reporter the day the residency relaunched. 95% recovered, he says, but those 4 scars are still there. And every time he walks out onto a stage now, that fact is part of what you're watching. If Kickstart My Heart ever meant anything to you, if you saw them in their prime, what happened to Vince Neil on December 26th is the kind of thing that changes how you hear every song. Number 9, Brian Setzer.
Mama's in the backyard learning how to jive and wail.
You know Stray Cat Strut, you know Rock This Town, and if you've ever heard Brian Setzer play guitar, that Gretsch in his hands like an extension of his nervous system, you know you're watching something that doesn't come along often. 3 Grammys, a rockabilly revolution in the 80s, a big band revival in the 90s that nobody saw coming. This is a man who has been playing since he was a teenager, who thinks in guitar, so when he posted an update in February 2025, it landed hard.
A woman is a woman and a man ain't nothing but a man.
"I cannot play guitar," he wrote. "There is no pain, but it feels like I am wearing a pair of gloves when I try to play." An autoimmune disease had begun attacking the protective sheathing around the nerves in his hands and feet. like insulation stripped from a wire. The signals malfunction, the hands lock up.
Then you ain't gotta jump, driving, then you went away.
He couldn't button his pants. He couldn't hold a pen. He mentioned being able to tie his shoes as a milestone. That's where Brian Setzer was in early 2025. He went to the Mayo Clinic for months of treatment, and in the middle of all that, he inadvertently developed a dependence on an herbal supplement he'd been using for energy.
Papa's in the icebox looking for a can of ale.
Kratom, which is a controlled substance in multiple states and far from safe. He went through treatment to clear his system. I did everything I could to heal, he said, and then there was more healing to do. By spring 2026, he was back. Stray Cats had a full summer tour scheduled. He said he was feeling really good, but here's what you should know. The autoimmune disease has no cure. It could come back. There are no guarantees. He's out there right now playing that Gretsch, and not one note he plays is something you should take for granted. Number 8, Dave Mustaine. June 2019, Dave Mustaine, co-founder of Megadeth, one of the architects of thrash metal, a man with black belts in multiple martial arts, was sitting across from a doctor who was telling him he had squamous cell carcinoma. Throat cancer, the back of his tongue, for a singer and lead guitarist whose entire livelihood depends on his voice and his hands, that is not just a health diagnosis, that's a direct attack on everything he is. Here's what he did. He didn't stop recording. He went from radiation and chemotherapy sessions, sometimes vomiting between takes, directly back into the studio, back behind the microphone. The album that came out of that period, The Sick, the Dying, and the Dead, was released in 2022 and debuted at number 3 on the Billboard 200. I was so pissed, he said. I went in there thinking, I'm gonna kill cancer. And we did. 51 radiation treatments, 9 rounds of chemotherapy, cancer-free by early 2020. But here's what 2025 brought that most people weren't following. Dupuytren's contracture, a condition where the connective tissue in the palm hardens and contracts, pulling the fingers toward the palm. For a rhythm guitarist who has spent 40 years playing some of the most technically demanding music in the genre, it makes playing really painful, in his own words. Add the spinal fusion, the arthritis, the stenosis, the bulging discs, the fractured vertebrae from decades of hard living, and you have a man who said recently, I've been ridden hard and put away wet, and there's only so much aspirin you can eat. Megadeth released their final album in January 2026. It debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200, the first time in the band's 40-year history. Dave Mustaine is on a farewell tour, playing every note, writing a memoir about the cancer fight. My hands are killing me, he said, but I'm here. I'd argue that's the most honest summary of Dave Mustaine's entire career, and I know some of you feel the same way. Number 7, Rod Stewart. June 19th, 2026. Rod Stewart is mid-song in West Valley City, Utah, Young Turks, and something starts going wrong. He stops moving with his usual energy. He grabs the piano for support, then an equipment rack, then a pole at the edge of the stage.
She sits alone, waiting for suggestions.
The music slows. Crew members rush in, and then someone wheels out an oxygen tank. In front of thousands of people, 81-year-old Rod Stewart presses an oxygen mask to his face and breathes. When he came back to the microphone, he said exactly the right thing. The show must go on. Pause. I nearly fainted up here. The crowd cheered. He sat down for the next song and finished the concert. Now, the quick take is that West Valley City sits at 4,300 feet above sea level, and altitude can affect anyone's breathing. That may be part of the story. But in the 6 weeks before that moment, Stewart had already canceled a full run of Las Vegas residency shows over a sinus infection. Canceled a San Diego show 45 minutes before showtime because doctors found significant inflammation of the vocal folds, putting his voice at risk of permanent damage. More shows canceled, more dates pushed. Rod Stewart has been hinting very loudly that his current North American One Last Time tour may be exactly that. At the Hollywood Bowl earlier in June, he told the crowd, "This is my last time here, so let's have a party tonight."
Now hold on a minute before we go much further.
If you've ever been in a room when Rod Stewart's voice is at full power, that sand and silk rasp with that genuine joy underneath it, and you understand what it means to watch him fight to stay out there, every show from this point forward is worth a different kind of attention.
She sits alone, waiting for suggestions.
Number 6. Paul Simon.
Lost pal.
Paul Simon has 6% of hearing in his left ear, not 60, 6. Let that settle. The man who has spent 60 years listening to the world and turning what he hears into something that lasts, who heard the sound of silence in his head and wrote it down, has lost nearly all of the hearing in one ear.
A man walks down the street, he says, "Why am I soft in the middle now? Why am I soft?"
It happened suddenly while he was recording an album. He was working on 7 psalms when it struck. Without warning, he described it as incredibly frustrating. He was angry at first. Then he did what great artists do. He found a way through anyway.
A man walks down the street, it's a street in a strange world. Maybe it's the third.
Here's what that looks like in practice. You Can Call Me Al is gone from his set list. He can't hear it well enough to execute it. Large speakers surround him on stage to compensate for what the ear no longer does. His arrangements have shifted, quieter, more stripped back than the versions that first made him famous.
When you call me, you can call me out.
In June 2025, he had back surgery after canceling shows. He's adapting in real time, reducing choices, changing what he can offer without pretending it's the same as before.
A man walks down the street, he says,
But here's the thing. Paul Simon compared himself to Matisse, the painter who, when he was too ill to stand at his easel late in life, pivoted to cut paper collages that became some of his most iconic work. "I don't think creativity stops with disability," Simon said. "That's not denial. That's a man who understands exactly what's happening and is choosing grace over grief."
"It's so long, where's my wife and family? What if I die here?"
Sound of Silence. Bridge Over Troubled Water. 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. Graceland. A catalog that shaped American music across 6 decades, and the man behind all of it is still out there, performing with a left ear that barely works, not because he has to be, but because he can't stop. If you've ever just let a Paul Simon record wash over you in a quiet room, you know exactly what's at stake.
I can call you Betty, and Betty, when you call me, you can call me out.
Number 5. Roger Daltrey. Roger Daltrey walked on stage at London's Royal Albert Hall in March 2025 and told the audience something you don't normally hear between songs at a rock concert. The problem with this job is that you go deaf. The crowd knew. He'd been talking about severe hearing loss for years, the result of 6 decades of standing directly in front of stadium speaker stacks. It's occupational damage. It's common in this world. He'd handled it with the bluntness that has always defined him. But then he added something new. "And now I've been told that I am going blind." The hall went quiet. Thank Thank God I still have my voice, because then I'll have a full Tommy. If you were in that room, if you know the Who, if you understand what Tommy actually is, that joke stopped the air. Tommy Walker, the 1969 rock opera, Deaf, Dumb, and Blind, freed by music. And Roger Daltrey was standing on that stage, going deaf and now going blind, and making a reference to the most famous character he ever played. That's Armor, or Courage, probably both. Roger Daltrey turned 81 in 2025. He and Pete Townsend have been playing together since 1964. At that same Royal Albert Hall show, Pete joked about his own knee replacement. Two men in their 80s, still out there, one of them going blind, still singing My Generation, written in 1965 by a 19-year-old who hoped he died before he got old, has been performed by men in their 80s who have now outlived more of their peers than they'd like to count. What stays with me is this. Fortunately, I still have my voice. Not fortunately, my hearing is fine. He knows it isn't. Not fortunately, I can see clearly. He knows that's going. The voice. That's the line he's holding. Number 4, Eric Clapton. In 2016, Eric Clapton told Classic Rock magazine something that should have made bigger headlines than it did. He had peripheral neuropathy, nerve damage that sends sensations like electric shocks down the leg. It was affecting his ability to play, and then he said, "I've had to come to terms with the fact that it will not improve, not might get worse, will not improve." The man told you exactly where the trajectory was going, and then went out and kept touring anyway.
And I'll say yes, I feel wonderful.
By 2018, he was also managing tinnitus, so severe he described going deaf as simply a fact. "I've got tinnitus. My hands just about work," he said. At 80 years old, on his 2025 Europe tour, reports were that he could barely stand during performances.
Go to a party.
Using a stool, barely mobile on stage. The man who earned the nickname Slow Hand because audiences at early shows would slow clap while he calmly restrung his guitar mid-performance, reportedly leaning on his band members just to get through a set. 3 Rock Hall of Fame inductions. With Cream, with the Yardbirds, Solo, Layla, Tears in Heaven, Sunshine of Your Love, a career so significant that people literally spray-painted Clapton is God on walls in London in 1966. And he stood in front of you in 2025 on a stool, doing what he's always done, knowing it was getting harder. The peripheral neuropathy was likely accelerated by decades of alcohol use he has talked about openly and addressed. He's been sober for years, but nerve damage doesn't reverse just because you stop what caused it. The body keeps the score. And he told us this, clearly, in 2016, because that's what honest people do.
And then she'll ask me.
If you've heard Layla 1,000 times and it still does something specific to your chest, if you know it's one man's hands that built that opening guitar line, then you understand what will not improve means for the people who love what those hands have done.
And the one
Number 3, Billy Joel.
Sing us a song tonight.
In May 2025, Billy Joel canceled his tour. Not postponed, canceled. All concerts scheduled through the summer of 2026, gone. And the reason was something most people had never heard of.
Will be for life.
Normal pressure hydrocephalus, NPH, a brain condition where cerebrospinal fluid, the liquid that cushions the brain, builds up inside the skull and begins pressing on the brain itself. Balance problems, vision problems, hearing problems,
Could be a movie star if I could get out of.
and in Joel's case, performing live concerts was actively making it worse. Every show was accelerating the progression. The doctor told him the thing he loves most is the thing that's doing him harm. Think about what that means for a moment.
Now John at the bar is a friend of mine.
The Piano Man, the man who played more consecutive sold-out shows at Madison Square Garden than any solo artist in history, 150 nights in one building. Piano is not just what he plays, it's how he thinks. And now it was the thing his brain couldn't handle.
I'm not really sure how it goes, but it's sad.
He went quietly. No drama. "I'm sincerely sorry to disappoint our audience," he said. That was it. Physical therapy, doctor's orders. In January 2026, he made one small appearance, 2 songs with a tribute band at a birthday event in Florida.
Never had time for a wife, and he's talking with.
He played Piano Man. The crowd lost their minds. His daughter said in March 2026 that he was doing well, doing physical therapy regularly, losing weight, staying committed to the process. He hasn't played a proper concert since February 2025. Here's the thing that won't let me go. NPH is often treatable. The most common procedure, a shunt that drains the excess fluid, can sometimes lead to near-complete recovery. One doctor described a patient who came through it feeling perfectly fine. The door isn't necessarily closed. There's hope here that doesn't exist on some other entries in this list.
Could be a movie star if I could get out of.
If you've ever been in a room where 60,000 people are singing Piano Man, back to the man who wrote it, every word, together, without being asked, you know what we're waiting for.
Now John at the bar is a friend of mine.
Number 2, Peter Frampton. Peter Frampton has a disease with no cure. He knows what it's doing to him. He knows where it ends. And he said recently, "I know the end game, but it doesn't bother me."
Champagne for breakfast and a shaman in my hand.
Inclusion body myositis, IBM, a progressive neuromuscular disease, slow, relentless, and rare enough that only about 30,000 Americans have it.
Busted just the other day. They said, don't worry.
It attacks the muscles, primarily in the fingers, wrists, forearms, and legs. The muscles weaken and waste. For most people, it means difficulty walking, difficulty climbing stairs, eventually trouble with daily tasks.
Must have been a dream. I don't believe where I've been.
For a guitarist, for the man who made Frampton Comes Alive, one of the best-selling live albums in history when it came out in 1976. 17 million copies, a record you could hear coming from someone else's car in a parking lot and know immediately. It means watching the thing you've done since you were a child become harder and then harder still.
Who's mine? What crime? Where the hell did I die?
Diagnosed around 2014. He didn't go public until 2019, when the progression had reached the point where people were going to notice anyway. "It's not life-threatening," he told CBS. "It's life-changing."
How'd you feel? Do you? Yeah.
He started a research fund at Johns Hopkins. $1 from every ticket on his farewell tour went to IBM research. He became an advocate for a disease most of his fans had never heard of before he said its name.
Otherwise he'd play. Do you?
By 2026, he uses a cane. He plays with adapted technique. Passages that once required 3 fingers are now done with 1. Django had only 2 fingers, he reminds himself. Get on with it. He released a new album, Carry the Light, with his son Julian this year. He performs when he can. He does what he can, for as long as he can.
Busted just the other day. They said, don't worry.
There will be a point over the next few years where I won't be able to play at this level, he said. And then he said the thing only a genuinely extraordinary person says in that moment. Who am I to complain? I've had 60 years of doing what I love the most. If you own Frampton Comes Alive, if you know what that talk box does on Do You Feel Like We Do, and you understand what it means for a man to play knowing his hands are running out of time, this one stays with you. Number 1. Phil Collins.
Seems embarrassed to be there.
Phil Collins was one of the greatest drummers who ever lived. That's not a debatable statement. The drum fill-in the Air Tonight, the one that arrives at 3 minutes and 40 seconds and rearranges your nervous system, is one of the most famous 8 seconds in the history of recorded music.
She calls out to the man on the street.
And it came from a man who played behind Genesis before he sang lead, who could play a snare roll that had a specific emotional temperature, who drummed and sang at the highest level simultaneously. For decades, you know the technique, you know the feel. You probably air drummed that break at some point in your life without being aware you were doing it, and now he can barely hold a drumstick.
It's cold and I'm nowhere to sleep.
In 2007, Phil Collins dislocated a vertebra in his spine. The nerve damage was severe. Over the following years, 5 knee surgeries, kidney issues linked to alcohol use, a slow deterioration that moved in stages, each one quieter than the last.
Oh, think twice.
By the time Genesis launched their The Last Domino farewell tour in 2021 and 2022, he could no longer sit behind a kit. So his son Nick Collins, 20 years old, played the drums, and Phil Collins sat on a stool beside the stage and sang. He was right there, that close, and he couldn't touch them.
He can see she's been crying.
There's footage from that tour of Nick playing the In the Air Tonight Phil sitting at the edge of the stage, watching, knowing every micro movement of what his son was playing because he invented it. Every ghost note, every micro delay before the snare, just sitting there. In 2026, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a solo artist, having gone in previously with Genesis in 2010. He declined to perform at the ceremony. "I can't really see it happening," he said in a BBC interview. "But I'm healthier now than I have been for quite a while." He mentioned the possibility of recording again. He said he'd reached 2 years of sobriety. There is genuine hope in how he speaks about the future.
She calls out to the man on the street.
But the man who played In the Air Tonight isn't going to play it again. And I think on some level he knows that. What it takes to sit beside the stage while your son plays the part you built, not with bitterness, not with performance, but with something that actually looks like peace. I don't have a word for that.
Think about it.
I didn't know this until I started digging. But Dave Grohl once said he could hear Phil Collins play across a crowded room and know immediately who was playing. That fingerprint, that thing that belongs to one person and no one else.
He pretends he can't hear her.
You can pass it to the next generation. He did, but it doesn't come back. And the grace he's showing in accepting that is, to me, the most complete story on this entire list. That's why Phil Collins is number 1.
It's another day